For this Autobot, burning rubber isn't just a motto, it's a way of life. This is your look at the new Hasbro Transformers Earthrise War for Cybertron Autobot Sunstreaker. The siege is over, but the war for Cybertron has just begun. The Autobots and Decepticons have left Cybertron, but their battle rages on as they hurtle through space in pursuit of the Allspark. With unforeseen dangers lurking ahead and the Decepticons closing in from behind, the only way out for the Autobots is to find a way through. Both sides must navigate the perils of space and instantly adapt to the battle anywhere in the cosmos. Now, before we get a closer look at Sunstreaker, the first thing we're going to want to do is figure out how tall this Autobot stands. While I'm doing this, I'd like to thank the folks over at Hasbro as well, who provided the sample of Sunstreaker that we're having a look at in this review. If you're in the market of picking up Sunstreaker or any of the other Earthrise figures, they should be available right now in retail stores and online as well. Sunstreaker stands modestly at 5.5 or 5.5 inches in height. And that translates to centimeters as being the Transformer standing 14.1 centimeters tall. The figure comes with one accessory, and technically I've got it currently on his back. We pick up the toy and spin this around, and located on the back of this Autobot is the one accessory that he comes included with. More so it plays the role when he slips into his car mode, but currently you can use it as a weapon as well. It has the proper sized peg that you can fit it into his hand, as well as various different ports around the Transformer as well. The only thing I would say is while fitting this into his hand, it doesn't seem to fit well enough. And I don't think it's simply just a case of the peg not being the proper size, but I think it's the ledge that's sticking out from his forearm. It's just enough that I can't get this low enough in that I can get it securely in place. Now I tried it the other way as well. And again, the biggest then issue is that he's got these pegs located on tops of his forearms. So he can hold the weapon, just not hold it tightly. However, you do have a couple of ports. Like I said, he's got one in his forearm, for example. And I must say, plugging it into his forearm works so much better than trying to fit it into his hand. He does also have a port located here on the side as well. He does have a port located also on the back. That's, of course, the main place where we were putting it. And he does actually have technically ports located on the tops of his shoulders as well. I don't know how ridiculous it may seem, though, if you take this off, for example. Now it's really tightly on there. And then you fit it on top of his shoulder. Yes, admittingly, it may look a little strange sitting on Sunstreaker's shoulders like that. That's a lot of S's. It's been done and molded, as you can see, in gray plastic or almost borderlining more silver plastic. It actually does look like it's molded plastic and not actually been painted. And he does have the peg port there located on the bottom, done all in black plastic. We'll move that to the side. And before we actually get to transforming him, let's get a closer look at Sunstreaker. Admittingly, Sunstreaker was one of my favorite Transformers growing up, right underneath Prowl. Prowl is one of my favorite Transformers all around. I must admit, I think they did a pretty good job of recreating and modernizing Sunstreaker to a more acceptable looking Transformer. A little bit certainly more posable than the original G1 figure that we've gotten so many years ago. I do think the head sculpt is really quite good, the incorporating of the silver. And hopefully the camera's also picking this up as we get really super close in there. They've panel lined the areas around the blue of the eyes. I'm always one that preferred the painted eyes instead of the light piping. Light piping may work well when you've got a light source shining directly on it, but a lot of times it usually results in dead eyes when you don't have that light source. Instead, I much more rather appreciate when they paint the eyes, and in this case, they painted him a very nice baby blue. The side fins on the sides of his head have been painted in yellow, and again, look quite good. This particular figure, you'll see that there's a lot of yellow happening. Unfortunately, not all the yellow jives with the yellow that's around it. While the majority of the plastic is molded in a lighter yellow, areas that have been notably painted are a little bit more closer to lemon yellow. Whereas I would probably compare the plastic yellow here to be closer to being more like a custard yellow. Why am I comparing this to food colors? But we spin it around. I mean, again, like the majority of the figure, everything that's molded plastic has a continuous color scheme consistent with one another. It's only, again, the areas that have been painted. the sides of the windows, for example, the sides of the forearms, and I guess more importantly, the front grille, the chest piece that's going to make up his torso, have all been painted instead. And as a result of that, you get a much more deeper, richer lemon yellow that doesn't quite match the other colors that he's got for the rest of his body. Sunstreaker's articulation is that his head is on a ball joint, a very small ball joint, but just enough that you can rotate the head back and forth, up and down, and you can also rock it back and forth. Too far forward, you'll start moving into his transformation mode, and his head does drop down quite a bit, so you want to kind of keep that on the level. He does also have some additional articulation on the shoulders. As you are rotating the shoulders, though, they often bump up against the back of his chassis, or the main back of his torso. So as you're rotating it, it does work well one way, but then you rotate it the other way, you'll find again, like this back piece does line and butt up against one another. The arms also allow the arms to, or the hinges also allow the arms to rotate or hinge outward. Not obviously at a full 90-degree angle bend, because he would be hitting himself on the side of the head. But you do have at least a good modest hinge joint. Again, you can move those arms out. In addition to that, he's got the hinge joint on the elbow. You can rotate the forearms all the way around, and he doesn't have any articulation in the wrist due to the way that his transformation works. That transformation also works quite well for his waist. As a result of it, he does have a swivel. You can move that back and forth. His legs split out. As you can see, there's a pin joint keeping everything intact. You can move the legs forward. You can move the legs back just a little bit, not too much. Because again, as you're moving it, you'll see as it's moving, it's just been really tight, unfortunately. I don't know if the pins are just excessively tight on this. The legs do move forward and back. I just find it on this particular figure, it's just really, really tight. He has a swivel at the top cut. It's basically a mushroom peg, as you can see right there. He has a hinge joint also in his knee, and he does have foot articulation as well, more so due to his transformation. Speaking of his transformation, let's go ahead and do that right now. First thing you're going to want to do is just move this out. You can move this completely out of the way. It doesn't have to go anywhere else other than sit right here for the time being. And we can already dismiss his head. We'll just drop that down for the time being. You bring this up if you want to, but you're going to want to be using that later on. From there, you can bring the legs down. One clever touch that I've noticed on their part is if you look at the back of the legs, the under of the legs, he's literally mirroring the same part of his foot as what will be the top of the car. It's clever the way that they've done that. And I really thought they could have easily just had the bottom leveled flat and simply just had this be a twisting point that you can rotate this to get the hood, the top of the car, to be the top of his foot. But instead what they ended up doing, they just literally molded the exact same piece on the both sides. Kind of clever, again, the way they've done that. So what you're going to do is you're going to look to the top here. You're going to want to bring these in. And sometimes if you got the foot too far back, it butts against these and then you can't actually move them. So just bring those back, level them off flat, and then you'll bring the back of the car, or the back of Sunstreaker, which again, remember, this is the front of his feet. This is the front of the car. Again, really smart the way they've done that. You can sandwich these together now if you want to. You'll be doing a lot of just going back and fixing panels up, but the majority of the car is really quite finished. From there, you're going to want to bring this down. You'll spin the torso around. Let me just show you what I did there. Bring this down, spin this around, and then from there, you're going to want to, actually what I should have done, drop these down first, bring both legs down on either side, and tab them into place. That's the key. That's what makes the car more compact and fits all the panels together. Should have done that actually first. Bring this down, and this snaps to the front. And like that, really, the majority of the car is already completed. From there, all you're then going to do is you're going to spin this around. Now, if you're not careful, you'll hit these side windows on both sides right now. Generally, for the most part, I can clear it, but you just want to be careful on those sides, because I believe these are separate pieces and they'll pop right off on you. From there, you'll just spin the back tires around so the tires are facing the bottom. There we go. And then you'll just bring these in on both sides, sandwich that together, and then all you really need to do is bring the hands in on both sides, and then just twist this around. So what you're wanting to see is you're wanting to see these ports facing up the top, and then just fold everything in. And just short of actually going then back in there and just adjusting and making sure everything's leveled flat, you've got yourself a finished car. Technically, yes, there is one last piece that we can add to this. Remember that hole that was located on the back of his torso? We can bring this back, and this finishes off the car, giving you something a little bit more closer resembling his original car mode in Generation 1, which was a Lamborghini Countach LP500S. You get somewhat that same vibe when you're looking at this. Again, the color deviation between that more lemon yellow, which is located on the back and located on the front here, does look slightly jarring when you look at the rest of the more lighter color yellow, which is all then the molded plastic. The only thing I feel that this as a vehicle mode lacks a little bit in is these ports located on the back. Sunstreaker, I recall having a more spoiler attached to the back. And the fact that there are holes there, I feel like this could have been a prime opportunity that they incorporated a spoiler. Even if it was something that could have detached, turned into blades or swords, something. But they could have probably given us a 2-port attachment that would just be the spoiler that fits to the back. Again, just making sure everything is all sort of snug and fit together. You get a decent, like I said, looking car. It's got some good coloring on the rims, you can see done in silver. And the tires spin quite freely and easily. Underneath, there's not very much robot kibble. Yes, you can understand where the head has been tucked in place, but if you fold it around, at least he's not staring right back at you when you flip the toy up for yourself. Overall, it's a decent looking car. It's close enough to looking like a Countach that I get the vibe of Sunstreaker. The only thing, again, I would have done is added a spoiler located on the back, and I think that would have been a prime opportunity to turn that into something else when he was in his robot mode. Now then, to get this guy back to robot mode, just before we do that, I want to draw your attention to the windshield here. Not only do I like the color of blue that they used, is kind of close to it being a teal, but I do also like the detailing and sculpt that they put underneath that. It's just different. I like the way that they did that. Anyways, to get this guy into robot mode, I'm just going to take this off first. I always find it helps to bring these out first, get those completely out of the way, and then you're literally just folding things out. You can bring the arms out. I always find that's a good, helpful aid, just to kind of get them out of the way. You don't really even have to talk about them and touch base on those just yet. We'll look at those in a second. And then you can also go ahead and bring these out, bring out the legs. So literally all you're just doing is you're freeing itself from, because after all, you've pegged everything in place. And once those all are out, just make sure we got that completely out here. Bring these out. There we go. There's one and there's two. You can then go ahead. Let me just show you on the inside here. I've brought the legs out, but the last thing you want to do is latch those into place on both sides. And again, do that on the other side. Bring that up and tab that into place. Sometimes you'll hear a click, other times you won't. And then from there, you can also bring this part up, and that'll just come up like this. Take the whole top section, spin it around, and then you're going to go ahead and take the head. I know, I didn't forget up with the arms. We're going to get to those in a second, and just bring this up. I want to finish up shop up here before I start tackling everything else. I suppose from there, we can also bring the arms around. We'll bring those now down. Make sure as well you spin this part around, and you bring out the hands. To the point actually where you're seeing the black. As soon as you see the black on the front, on the top, then just drop the hands out from the sides. But again, like those holes serve a purpose fine when he's in robot mode. But I really, again, think that they could have played such a pivotal role when it came to his car mode. You could have easily attached the spoiler to that. The last thing you're going on to do is spin the torso around. So you're going to be looking at the front. This is the front black section of his legs. And then the last thing you're going to want to do is bring the feet forward. Now this is the robot's feet. Remember again, this was the bottom of the car here. That would have been the top hood of the car. And then you're also going to drop down the heels. When you're dropping down the heels, make sure that they latch. There's like a point where you'll hear. Let me see if I can get that going for you. You'll hear that little click. And that click will tell you that they're then in place. And that's it. That's all you really need to put Sunstreaker back into robot mode. I definitely did want to show you guys both car to car and then from car to robot. When it comes to displaying him, again, I'll probably just take this, plug that onto the back, and you've got yourself a nice finished looking Sunstreaker. A decent looking car, a decent looking robot, and altogether a pretty easy to transformer. The only thing I would say is like being the fact that they had foot mode and then essentially like the roof of the car being the same mold. It does cause the feet to be slightly more curved as opposed to being completely flat. So at times he's a little more difficult to getting standing straight. But other than that, he's a nice looking Transformer. Still wish I really had my original Sunstreaker. It's one of the ones I had in my collection. And then like everything else, I sold a whole bunch of them at my garage sale. Sunstreaker was part of that list and really did, unfortunately, kick myself later on for the fact I had to sell him. I do like the way that the Earthrise turned out. Yes, the colors are a little off, a little jarring. The fact that you see the lighter plastic yellow doesn't quite mirror up then with the yellow that they painted in on the front of his torso and the sides of his arm. But other than that, he's a really good looking Autobot, and I'm really glad I was able to get this one. As a Transformer, Sunstreaker succeeds quite well in both modes, his robot and his car, and neither mode really has to sacrifice anything in favor of the other, so the car is a nice, sleek, finished, somewhat Lamborghini mode, with no unnecessary robot kibble, and again, the same thing could be applied for the robot mode as well. A nice touch on Hasbro's part as well was to incorporate the roof of the car as part of Sunstreaker's feet. But they're not what you think it would be. It's not just folding up the front of the hood and bingo bango, you've got yourself the feet for Sunstreaker. Instead, clever were they to have it on the bottom end. So basically, you've got almost like a dummy hood on the bottom of the car that serves then as the feet for Sunstreaker. The only negative to that is if you're a kid that plays a lot with these Transformers, especially outside, and the bottom of his feet are going to get scratched. Normally, that wouldn't be a thing that would impact the car. But because, of course, the dummy parts of the hood are on the top of his feet, of course, when you transform it back to car, you may notice some of those scratches or some of the dirt that may have picked up while you were playing with it in robot mode. Nonetheless, though, a great-looking Transformer. I've always been a big fan of the design of Sunstreaker, and I think this one turned out really good. The only thing that was lacking in this release is the fact he didn't have the spoiler. And hopefully that may be something that they may release down the road. Probably unlikely. But I think that's the one thing that would have finished off that somewhat Lamborghini Countach alt mode is a nice spoiler on the back of the car. A big thank you again to the folks over at Hasbro that provided the sample of Sunstreaker, along with a ton of Earthrise Transformers that we're going to be having a look at in upcoming videos. If you have managed to pick up Sunstreaker for yourself, let me know down below in the comment section what you guys think of it, or based on this review, and this review alone. Also, if you're a big fan of the channel, liking the content you're seeing, let's just say you haven't yet had a chance to do so, hit that subscribe button down below. Don't postpone what you can do today by hitting that subscribe button down below and, of course, turning on the bell notification. There's going to be lots of videos coming your way, so as always, keep your peepers peeled to this channel. And thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.